Welcome to your journey of healing with the Healing Podcast, hosted by licensed clinician Monique Owe and co-host Dr. Amber Moan.
Thank you for tuning into the Healing Podcast. I am your host, Monique Owe. Dr. Moan is not here with me today. For my regular listeners or our regular listeners, I know you're wondering, where's Dr. Moan? Listen, she'll be here. It was summer and our schedule's not linking up and matching, but Dr. Moan will be back with me soon. So probably the next episode, you might end up hearing Dr. Moan. So we'll be back together soon. But anyway, going into today's topic, I hope you're good with just me. Okay. So today's topic is forgiveness part 2. I just want them to be accountable. So remember, part 1 was, I just want them to say I'm sorry. This one is part 2. I just want them to be accountable. So remember in part 1, we discussed how just want them to say sorry for what they did. And then we went into it. It's not just that. You want them. It's beyond that. It's not just I'm sorry. Because if that's the case, I can go ahead and hurt somebody and just say, oh, I'm sorry. And that'll make it all better, right? Does it? No, it doesn't. So it's not just the I'm sorry. It's you want them to be accountable for what they did to you, to acknowledge what they did to you, and also say I'm sorry. And let's be honest, sometimes you want them to have a consequence for what they did to you. You want them to suffer a little bit. Let's just be real. That's what happens, right? Well, let's talk about why you just want them to be accountable. The person hurt you. They betrayed you. Did not care for you. They did not have any regard of your feelings. Whether they stole from you, they lied on you. They caused a big problem in your life. And you want them to be accountable for what they did to you, right? Because they did something wrong. They did something to you that you feel like you didn't deserve, right? That shouldn't have happened. Whatever they did, that should not have been the case. What did you do to deserve that from them, right? Sometimes that's how we feel. We feel like a person does an offense to us, rips the rug from right under us, and you're like, wait a minute, where was this coming from? And you just want them to be sorry, but to acknowledge what they did and to talk to you about what they did and how they hurt you and how they may have maybe cause some serious consequences in your life. Now, you may not be facing those consequences now. Some people are. But you're just upset because they turned your life upside down without warning. And you want them to say sorry for that. You want them to acknowledge what they did. But here's what I'm going to say. You can't force it. Forgiveness doesn't mean anything. I'm going to stress. First of all, you got to be ready to forgive. So don't jump to, I forgave the person. No, you got to make sure you did. That takes time. I wouldn't put a timetable on forgiveness, but what I will say is, can you force someone to be accountable? No. I'm going to be honest with you. You can't force anybody to be accountable for the things they have done to you, because that's a behavior they're going to have to face. If you listen to my episode on accountability, that person has to face what they did to you and sit with themselves and acknowledge and look in the mirror that they did something hurtful. Are you going to force that person to do that? No, because that's going to be their decision. You can talk to them about it. You can confront them about it. But that's still not going to make them be accountable. And here's the thing. Before you confront somebody that has hurt you, make sure you're ready. Because if you're not ready, it's only going to make you angry. And it's only going to cause you more pain. This is really a lot of work you're going to have to do within self to release what they did to you and not worry about them. Then you want to know the why. Many times people want to know, well, why did you hurt me? Tell me why you did it. Can the person give you a satisfying answer as to why they hurt you? Like if they stole from you, if they lied on you, let's say they did something to cause you to go to prison for something you didn't do. Is them saying why they did it going to take away the pain of what you had to suffer from? I don't think it is. Maybe when you get to a place of peace and you'll maybe understand why they did it a little bit, it's not going to take that away. So that's why, see, forgiveness takes a lot more work into self, into being able to release that thing and focus on what you do have versus what you don't have because of maybe that thing. Let's see, people do damage, to people. Yes, people hurt people. We hurt people. I'm not even going to say it's the other person. You've hurt somebody too. A lot of times people like to carry this thing around like this chip on their shoulder. I've never hurt anybody. I'm a good person. I don't do that to people. I've never hurt anybody. Well, that's false. That's false. Because that would mean you're perfect and that doesn't exist. You've hurt somebody in your life. Maybe unintentional. Maybe you don't even know. But you at some point have hurt somebody, may have hurt somebody's feelings, may have disappointed someone. Was it always intentional? Probably not. But for the things that are blatant, have you yourself taken accountability for the people you've hurt? Think about that. Is it always the other person, or is there something that you also need to say sorry for and be accountable for? So sometimes look in the mirror. It's not always the other person. And sometimes you have to be the bigger person. Maybe you did something and you have to say sorry to them. See, you're trying to make it seem like it was them, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was you. Maybe somebody did a favor for you. Maybe you took advantage of the favor. Maybe you didn't see it that way. But now when you're older and you're looking into self and you think about it, maybe I could have handled that differently. Maybe it was me and I kind of was the catalyst to something else happening. So take accountability for your part. That also can help you forgive. When you really look at yourself and the person you are or the person you're becoming and your decisions from the past, and you recognize what you've done, sometimes it will help you forgive because you realize you too are a person. You as well are a person who may have hurt someone, who may have misjudged someone, who may have lied on someone. Listen, when y'all know what lying, I don't care for lying. I don't like liars because they do damage, right? But you may have been that person. You may have gossiped about a person, spread a rumor about a person that you never even knew was true. And you cause this whirlwind of chaos for that person as well. And you're trying to avoid looking at that. Once you look at yourself, it will help you forgive as well. But let's talk about the person that you want them to be accountable. Yeah, I get it. They hurt you. Stay away from them people. Cut those people off. You should have no interaction with those people. Like if they're on they should not be on your social media page. They should not be in your email. They should not be in your phone. Leave them folks alone. If they hurt you and they're not wanting to be accountable, stop making your day focused on them being accountable. They'll get what's coming to them. I firmly believe that's what goes around comes around. Eventually, it may not be the same thing, but they're going to remember. People can act like they don't remember. They know the negative things they've done in their life. So I know you want them to be accountable. You want them to acknowledge what they've done to you, but you have to get to a place to realize they may not in your lifetime. You may not even see it, but eventually, yes, they will have to be accountable because they're going to have some circumstance and consequence. Listen, they could be living up their life, smiling, laughing, traveling, spending money, appearing to have a good time. One, I don't know how you know that because they shouldn't be anywhere connected to you. But if somehow you know that they're living up their life or it appears that they are, but you're not with them when they have to sleep with themselves at night. You're not with them with that torment that goes on in their head. You're not with them when they have to realize all the lies that they told to do damage to you. See, you're not with them with that. You see outer, you don't know inner. But anyway, before we go into that, continue, let me go ahead and make a segue here. We're going to go into, you guessed it, the situation. All right. Dear Healing Podcast, sometimes I just want to log off. Since the COVID pandemic, I feel like things that I used to care about, I don't anymore. I'm not talking about taking my life. I'm just saying things I used to feel were important and people I used to spend my time with and go out of my way for, I don't feel motivated to do that any longer. Even social media is annoying. I just sometimes want to unplug. The issue is I am self-employed and I somewhat have to stay plugged in because social media is how I get my clients. How can I stay plugged in but not involved, if that makes sense? Thank you for writing into the Healing Podcast. I completely understand. Appreciate you sharing your situation. Sometimes we do need to unplug. You might have to look at a way that you have to reframe and balance. You mentioned that you're self-employed, so I'm assuming you use social media for advertisement and maybe to get your clients and things like that. You know what? You can do things like scheduled posts where you can spend some time privately creating all your scheduled posts, and then you can decide how you release them. That way you're not always involved and you can kind of unplug for a moment. If your finances permit, you can go to a website, an app like Fiverr or Upwork, where you can get a freelancer or someone to do those posts for you. So that way you don't have to be as involved. But financially, you know that you do have to pay for those things. They're not always expensive. Try not to go with the most expensive. The most expensive is not always the best. You want to go with quality versus quantity. See if you can do that. See if there's a way you can restructure things to where you are taking care of yourself. That means, or only post about your business. Other than that, don't scroll. It's okay to log off. Once you post about your business and you see your comments and people are trying to contact you, that's it. Or let your clients know, the ones that are established, let them know like, hey, I'm going to be taking some time off. Or you have to contact me this way, send me an email versus contacting me on social media. You're just going to have to take some time to restructure things. So no, I don't think it's unreasonable that you want to unplug. Life is stressful right now. The COVID pandemic took such a toll and changed so many things that it makes you think about what's important and what's not, right? And it's okay. Maybe cut out people that stress you. Only stay around people that give you peace. And sometimes that is staying with yourself for a little bit. Not saying you have to isolate all the time, but it's nothing wrong if you feel like staying home and not going out. It's nothing wrong with that. You might like the peace and comfort of your home. If you are a family person, like maybe your mom or a dad, do your part as mom and dad and still take time for yourself. If you're married, maybe tell your spouse. Make sure your spouse knows what's going on so that they can kind of take some of the load. Because that's what a marriage is about, right? Sometimes we're both good. And sometimes I need to lean on my spouse more than the other person, vice versa. You might need to lean on your spouse heavier at times and less at other times. Friendships, talk to your friends and be honest. Maybe you can't be there for the events right now. Maybe you're not in a good space. If you're committed to a function, maybe a big party that they're having, and maybe you just don't have the capacity to do so, be honest with your friend or your loved one. I think if you're honest, they will understand. Yes, they might be disappointed that you can't be there, but you have to let them know how you are, because mentally, if you're not good and you don't take care of yourself, it's only going to cause you to have a break. And we don't want you to get to that point. So what I'm going to say to you is look at how you can restructure your business, maybe hire a freelancer to do some of the advertising and recruitment, or maybe an administrative assistant to help you temporarily. Be honest with your clients about how you won't be as accessible. That's fine. That way they know. Treat your clients good when they come in, your customers, and take care of yourself. Maybe you need to take a little bit of a vacation or add more staycations in your life. Once a month, take a day and go somewhere and enjoy it. And just be okay with that. It's nothing wrong. You're human. You're not a robot. So I hope that helps you. I thank you for writing into the Healing Podcast. If you are out there and would like to share your situation with the Healing Podcast, please write support@thehealingpodcast.com. or go to the healingpodcast.com website and you can go ahead and hit the contact tab. And let's go ahead and give a mention to our sponsor, Healing Expressions.
Are you someone who has been considering therapy? Perhaps someone else has told you that you need to talk to a therapist. Or maybe you're in a relationship and you want to discuss some challenges that you've been facing with your significant other. Maybe there's a communication issue, perhaps an incident of infidelity. Or maybe you just want to strengthen your relationship because you guys are thinking about taking another step. Maybe you're struggling with anxiety or depression, perhaps grief, life stressors, and you just want to share your thoughts with someone. Well, consider contacting Healing Expressions. Healing Expressions is a private practice located in the Atlanta, Georgia area. You will be given a session at an affordable price with a licensed therapist. If this resonates with you, consider going to healingexpressionsllc.com, reading about the practice, and hitting the contact tab to see if you can book a session. All right. Thank you so much. And back to the Healing Podcast.
Okay. So back into the topic of forgiveness part 2. Just want them to be accountable. And before I talk about that, let me go ahead and do another reminder. The podcast, the Healing Podcast, is just a podcast. This is not the therapy. Yes, I am a therapist. I'm a licensed therapist. Been doing so for many years. And this is not therapy. Even with the situation segment, those are just tips. At the end of the day, this is always going to be up to you to do what you want to do and how you need to do for your life. These are just tips that I know have been helpful to people and me trying to ease hopefully some of the burden about being able to care for yourself so that you can have the life that you want. So, okay, back into the topic. Accountability for those that have hurt you with the forgiveness. So 1, you don't have to be so quick to forgive. I know people won't always say, forgive that person. Well, you might have to do it at your time. You'll know when that is. But when is it time, though? If you want to know when a sign is that it's probably been too long, when you're still getting angry about something that happened years ago, when it's still making you feel like you're back at that same spot where that person hurt you, it might be time to release. I don't think you can release by rehashing the event multiple times with the same type of people. You're going to have to get into maybe some therapy or maybe even talk to a life coach to try to help you express that anger and get that stuff out and focus on future versus past. Yes, acknowledge that person hurt you. They did damage. Now, how can you move forward with that? You might need to tell your story in a book. You might need to tell your story in a video blog, But I do think you need to stay away from that person who hurt you. And don't focus so much on what you want them to suffer and be accountable. It may not come right now. You got to focus on what you have for your life. Focus on you, on that business, on that degree, on that job, on that career, on that newfound look that you're trying to create for yourself. Focus on bringing new people in your life that are positive, stay in those circles. The more you expose yourself to different circles, the better you'll start to feel. The less what that person did to you will start to affect you. But If there is something you can do, like maybe they did a crime against you, yeah, press charges if you need to. If they did a crime and they lied against you, see if you can. See if there is something they can do. Maybe it's a civil suit and they owe you some money. Maybe you decide to let it go, but you don't want to any longer. Well, see if you have that option, make sure they don't have access. And when people try to bring you stuff from them, keep it at a minimum. If people bringing up stuff that person did bothers you, just tell them, hey, I don't want to talk about that person right now, But I am going to say something you're going to have to do is keep the contact minimal. If this is a husband or ex or something you have children with, sometimes you might have to have somebody else intercede, meaning like, instead of them dropping the kids off with you directly, maybe they can drop them off at your sister's house and you pick up the kids from your sister's house, just to protect your peace. But the moment your kids start to speak to them, speak about all the things that's happening in their life, just say, hey, kids, we're going to focus on what we're doing today. We're not going to worry about mom or dad. We're going to focus on us, You might have to change your circle again. You may not be able to interact with their family anymore. Maybe you were cool with the family of your ex, but now, unfortunately, because the relationship is over, you're going to have to kind of nip that in the bud because interacting with them also reminds you of the pain you went through. So I get you want them to be accountable. You want them to admit what they did to you. You can't force it, unfortunately. You're not going to make them accountable. You're not. So stop focusing your time and energy on that. Focus on you and what you can do for you. You might need to just revamp your style. You might need to create a website for you, a blog for yourself, write a book for yourself, put more inspirational, motivational posts about yourself, travel. You might need to look into that. Focus so much on you that they don't even become a factor in your life. And eventually they'll hear about your glow up. It gets back around. Trust me, it just somehow does. Eventually it does. So make sure you're taking care of yourself and try not to consume your time wanting that person to be accountable. Because I'm going to ask you this, what kind of accountability you want? Even if that person suffers, it's not going to take away what they did to you. So you may want some accountability, but make sure that's enough. I think it's deeper than that. You want to be released and relieved of the pain that they caused. That's what you want. You want them to acknowledge what they did to you. That's what you want. You want them to say, I'm sorry for hurting you, for doing damage in your life. That's what you really want, but I can't say you're not guaranteed to get it. Sometimes you will, though. Sometimes people come back years later and they will admit what they did to you. And at that point, it sometimes feels satisfying. But many times you have been so past it that you're not even worried about it anymore. But I am going to also say, don't forget about it. Now, if you do forgive a person, remember what they did. I know people say forgive and forget. No, not necessarily, because sometimes you need to remember just in the back of your mind what they did so you don't trust that same thing again. You might need to treat them with a yardstick, like keep them at a distance. You can keep them close, but just watch them. Keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer type thing. So it just depends. I hope that is helpful to you. If it is causing you to stay up at night, to sleep, to worry, to not eat, to be angry every time you see their picture, stop looking at them. Stop letting them affect you. If you can do something about it, you do something about it. But in the meantime, until you can't focus on you so that you have the strength to deal with it when you need to, keep positive people in your life that are not about them, that are not about that person, but that are about you. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with this. Forgive your enemies, but never forget their names. Now, that was by John F. Kennedy. Okay? Forgive your enemies, but never forget their names. Like I said, forgive, but just have a little bit of a memory of what they did, okay? And move on with your life. I hope that's been helpful to you. I thank you for tuning into the Healing Podcast and for your support, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.